So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to session two of the pitching bootcamp. And just a quick revision of what we did last time. We started off by creating this perfect recipe for a very good pitch, right? And there were 4 or 5 key things that we wanted to kind of include. And the first was the fire, which was your story, bringing out your story in terms of the genesis of starting the venture. Then there were 10 things that we went through, right from the value proposition of your product, the market size, the entry barriers, and so on and so forth. So there were 8 or 10 things that were really important that you must include as a part of the pitch. Then we also ended up by saying that if you are doing a 10-minute pitch or a 15-minute pitch, how should you structure the slides? What are the things that you should include as a part of the main pitch deck, and what are the things that you should move to the appendix section, and how do you actually go to the appendix section during the question answer sessions, and talk about those elements. So talk only about the team, the product, what is the basically the progress, and what is the amount of capital that you need, where will you spend it, and where will that take you. Rest all the slides related to competition, related to size of the market, can be moved to the appendix section. Detailed financial projections, etc., can be moved to the appendix section. And this is how we can actually structure the entire pitch deck for these 10-12 minute pitches. What I also told you was that how you can leverage AI to essentially write scripts, to actually build slide by slide script, make it better. And then if it is an online pitch, there's a team of two who are actually joining, and one of you is actually changing the slides, and the other one is actually reading through the script, and that makes the entire, I would say, experience a very good experience when it comes to pitching to the investors per se, right? Now, after this, I'm going to add a few spices on top of this. That what is it that you now need to do over and above this, right? It is extremely important to know your audience before you pitch, right? Very, very critical. Which investor you are pitching to is extremely critical. What do I mean by which investor you're pitching to? If you're pitching to a social impact investor, how should you actually pitch? If you're pitching to a normal investor, how should you pitch? The deck should be different for different audiences, right? Lot of times we change a few slides here and there when we are pitching to different set of investors per se. Um, sorry, just yeah. So I was at knowing your audience and investor profile, and I'm going to actually double click a little bit on this particular part, that how do we actually decide which investors to reach out to, what kind of pitch should we give to which kind of investor. All of that is extremely critical for us to understand. And the next 10-15 minutes, I'm only going to only going to talk about how do we shortlist the right set of investors. And once we have shortlisted the right set of investors, within investors, what are the changes that we need to make when we are pitching to these investors? So I'm going to move to another deck. Perfect. So typically, what founders actually, the strategy that they use while raising a round of capital, while reaching out to the investors specifically, is a strategy that we call spray and pray. Okay, what is spray and pray? Basically, every morning we wake up, we just keep writing to investors, right? We find email addresses, we write to investors, we connect with them on LinkedIn, we actually reach out to them through emails. So anyone and everyone who is an investor, we try and reach out to those investors, right? And this is what we call as the false start when it comes to capital raising process, right? What do I mean by false start? We actually think that we've started the fundraising process, but we are not going to reach anywhere because of the spray and pray approach. Try and understand, we are not selling credit cards. We are actually looking to raise a round of capital for our company. And the whole approach of cold calling, cold email, randomly reaching out to investors, it does not work specifically when we are looking to raise a round of capital for our ventures. So then what is the right way? Okay. Targeting investors bases a certain criteria is actually the right way, or what we call as the real start, right? We have to only reach out to select few investors bases a particular criteria. And what can be the bare minimum criteria for all of us? It's very simple. Focus on the sector and focus on the ticket size. These are the two things that we need to actually focus on. I am operating in agri sector and I am looking to raise 2 crore rupees of funding. What I need to actually figure out is which are the investors in the agri sector who are looking to invest somewhere around 1 to 5 crores in startups, right? So the very first level of setting up a criteria is sector and, and ticket size. The maximum times why we are not able to raise a round of capital is because we are facing the problem of knocking the wrong door. We are actually reaching out to investors who are not looking at the sector in which we are operating and who are not looking at the ticket size that we are looking to raise, right? So let me give you an example of how we solve this particular challenge, right? So I want to take you through an example of a company called Under the Mango Tree, right? So this company, what it does is it increases the income of the farmers per se, right? It is basically the company says that we increase the income of the farmers. And how do they do that? They go to these small marginal farmers and they set up these bee boxes, honey bee boxes on the farm, right? Now, bees foster pollination. So, what do I mean by that? When, let's say, I'm a lychee farmer in Bihar, okay, I generally produce 100 kgs of lychee. Now, here I have installed a honeybee box on my field. There are so many honeybees on my field now, and they are fostering pollination. So, instead of producing 100 kgs of lychee, I suddenly start producing 120 kgs of lychee just because there are so many honeybees who are pollinating on my field, right? So it increases the income of the farmer by actually, having a bee box on their field. Now, what this company does is it collects the honey from the farmer, pays them, and collects the honey from the farmer, bottles it in these beautiful little bottles, and export the honey in the international markets. This fetches a very very high price. The reason, it is basically what they call as the single malt of honey, right? So in whiskey, just the way you have single malt, the honey collected from a lychee growing region will be actually lychee honey. Honey collected from predominantly mango orchards will be mango honey, and so on and so forth, right? So farmers are getting benefited twice. Once, because they are actually the yield is getting increased because of a bee box, and second time because this company is procuring the honey from the farmers and selling it in the international markets, right? And this is their business model. So positioning this business was very very critical. They could have just said that, you know what, we are a honey brand, and could have went out. They could have reached to investors and said that, hey, we are a honey brand wanting to raise a round of capital. But look at the way they have positioned it. They are calling this as a for profit social impact venture, which is actually creating livelihood for the bottom of the pyramid. Yes, our objective is to actually make profits. But while we are doing that, we are actually impacting marginalized farmers. And they are bringing out this story in their pitch per se, right? Now, this company is looking to raise 3 crore rupees of funding as seed money, right? So this is their first round of capital, 3 crore rupees of funding that they were looking to raise. Now, how does one go about finding the relevant investors? Figure out what are the core themes. One theme is basically it is an agri/food opportunity. Second theme is they are looking to raise 3 crores, which means investors who are investing somewhere between 1 to 5 crores are the right segment of investors. So investors interested in agri/food opportunity, looking to invest 1 to 5 crores, and who are also social impact investors. So there's a segment of investors in the country that only back opportunities that are creating some kind of livelihood impact or climate impact and so on and so forth, right? So now we have three layers: social impact, food slash agri opportunity, investors who are looking to invest 1 to 5 crores. With these parameters, I start looking up for investors. The way I go about is by doing simple Google searches and reading, right? So just the way a person who is investing in stock markets would read Economic Times in the morning, watch CNBC, try and get as much data as possible. When we enter the fundraising zone, we have to actually be aware of which are the investors that are operating in our particular sector, what are the ticket sizes, and so on and so forth, right? So it comes with a mix of reading, with a mix of keeping track of funding news. And also, there are a lot of platforms that give you access to this information. For example, obviously, FundEnable is one platform where you find sector-wise, ticket size-wise investor lists. There are platforms like CapTable. There is a platform called, VCC Edge. So these platforms basically on basic 2,000 rupee annual subscription and so on and so forth give you sector specific reports and sector specific investor lists. What you read on Your Story or Inc 42 in general is basically most of them are featured articles, or that is what we call as noise, right? But when you buy these small subscriptions, that is the real signal that you are getting, right? Where, okay, I'm operating in fintech sector, for example, which are the prominent investors currently in the fintech sector who are looking to actually invest this ticket size. So the knowledge of investors comes with a mix of pure play Google reading, and keeping a tap on platforms like FundEnable, Inc 42. There is a platform called CapTable, and so on and so forth, right? So with this, what we did was we actually found out a list of around 11 social impact investors. And for the question on the in the chat window, where which are the social impact investors, these are a few social impact investors operating in the country, right? These are not all; these are only a few social impact investors. The reason why we've chosen them is because they were relevant for this particular opportunity. Someone like a Capital for Development focuses on agri slash food, focuses on livelihood impact, has a ticket size of 1 to 5 crores, right? So imagine only 11 investors, a list of only 11 investors we were able to kind of figure out. And then we actually double click on each of these names. How does their portfolio look like? What is their ticket size? Does my specific stories fit really well with any of these investors? And looking at that, we shortlisted, let's say, 7 to 8, and only reached out to these 7, 8 investors. That's it. We did not reach out to a long list of 50 investors, 60 investors. A lot of people say that fundraising is all about widening the top of the funnel, which means the more number of investors you reach, the probability is actually higher. In my mind, it is actually the reverse of that. The more targeted your investor list is, the better are the chances for closing a round of funding. And with this approach, in a week's time, we were able to get interest. And ultimately, we raised a round of capital from this fund called Acumen, which is a US-based social impact fund investing heavily in India. And we were able to raise, $500,000 almost from this particular social impact fund. And the company went ahead and, had raised some bit of funding from social impact investors. So 3 rounds of social impact investments happened in this particular business person, right? Moral of the story is that if your targeting is right, if you select a criteria and if you choose investors basis that criteria, the probability of investors responding or the probability of you closing a round of capital gets very, very high. And imagine a business like a honey brand was also able to raise a round of capital, right? We talk about, hey, what is the differentiation and so on and so forth. There are so many honey brands. But here, there is one honey brand which has kind of created a story around social impact, increasing the income of farmers, right? And that is what brings me to our very first discussion point again: bring out the story. Okay, plain vanilla things do not attract investor interest. even though they are good businesses. Remember, people like to bet money. Early stage investing is all about betting money on story which is backed by numbers. Okay, so only story is not enough. You have to back it with relevant numbers as well. So this is one way how you can actually go about, basically, I would say reaching out to investors per se, right? Ticket size, what do I mean by ticket size? Ticket size is the amount of money that you are looking to raise, right? The fundraise amount. So if you are looking to raise 3 crores, then which are the investors who are looking to invest 1 to 5 crores, so they mention it. So we typically invest up to 5 crores or up to, 250K US dollars. So every investor would have their, thesis around sectors that they like, the amount of money that they generally invest, and so on and so forth. It is all about matchmaking, right? It is all about what is our idea, what is our business, and which are the right investors for our business. That is the crux or the core of a successful fundraise per se, right? And
Vikrant, can I ask a question, please?
yeah, please go ahead.
Wheel. I want your opinion on why don't we go to people who already know this? And I spoke to a couple of VCs. They were more happy if you come to an investment banker or somebody known to them. So
Sure,
instead of us going through the whole thing circle and trying to, on our own amateurish way, try and find the right people, if we go to a good investment banker, he
sure,
knows everything about the business. He charges money. He charges money.
sure,
1 lakh,
sure,
1,50,000, 1 lakh. They charge as the upfront fee, and then they take
sure.
a 3% or 4% of the raised amount. But then they are the professionals, na? Don't you think that's an
Absolutely.
easier way rather than going through the whole big circle all over again and again?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you've done the marketing job for me actually by saying this, because so see, there are so I will, I have a small segment on how do you decide on which people to work with. Okay, so what I believe is that in fundraising, yes, you can have advisors and you can have investment banking teams in place who would do this for you, right? Uh, the point is that how do I know whether these guys, they also need uh, basically inputs from your side, right? It has to come from your side. An investment banker is not going to, from scratch, create a story. Is not going to only, entirely do the job for you per se, right? So the question is that at any point in time, we can go to experts, and we should, if there is a need, we should, because fundraising is not your, you have to run a business. This is a part of
Exactly.
business, right? Tomorrow you have to focus more
Exactly.
on sales, marketing, all these elements per se, right? Building
Absolutely right.
team. But capital raising, the amount of time it takes to raise a round of capital, one founder's entire bandwidth goes in that, right?
Yes.
However, uh, for at least the first 2 rounds of funding, the founder is still at the center of the capital raising process. And a lot of heavy lifting, at least for the first couple of rounds, has to be done by the founders, right? The reason for that is the fundraise amount, when the fundraise amount is low, the quality of people who actually work with you to raise a round of capital are not that great in the market, right? So what we do is, if we have $3 to $4 million of funding requirement, we are super excited as investment bankers, right? Tomorrow, if you come and tell me that, hey, help me in raising a round of 3 crore rupees, I am not interested in that 6 lakh rupees which I will make out of that 3 crore rupees, right? So what happens is the quality of experts at initial round of funding in India and across the world is very, very poor. Okay, these are mostly like brokers, right? And therefore, although you would appoint someone to guide you and help you, a lot of founders' attention is going into this segment. And even if you get a good person, if you get a good person, you should go ahead and work with experts. But the objective is that you should also know how to kind of, maneuver through this entire system. And that is the whole idea of why I am actually double clicking on the thought process, that what what should be done, right, in terms of capital raising. And that's the whole, I would say, objective per se. But yes, you should go ahead and work with an expert. How to select the expert, I'm going to talk about it at the end of the session, that what are the parameters basis which you should decide which company to work with, right? So that is what it is, right? So basically, what we also do at times is that we add or change the pitch a bit before reaching out to the investors. So, for example, if I'm pitching to social impact investors, let's say, my pitch deck should have a slide around how does the opportunity actually impact the bottom of the pyramid, right? Are the income of the farmer is actually increasing by this much percentage, or in season where there is a challenge with production per se, there is an ancillary income that comes handy for the farmers, and it kind of is very very important for them. So what are the metrics basis which you are saying that you are a social impact opportunity has to be put out in the deck, right? So when you reach out to specific social impact investors, for example, there has to be a slide or two on how does this opportunity actually impact the bottom of the pyramid. Or if you reach out to, let's say, specific other investors, right? We typically study their portfolio, and we make a slide or two on if there are any synergies with their existing portfolio companies, right? So at the end of the pitch, we say, hey, by the way, I saw your portfolio, and there is one company wherein there can be business synergies between us, right? We can actually be vendors to this one portfolio company of yours. And this is why I think we can be vendors, just as a passing 2-3 minutes of discussion around that. Investors really like that you are going one step ahead in terms of adding value to their portfolio, or figuring out ways to add value to their portfolio. And that is what it is important for us to include those specific slides. So before you meet an investor, let's say if you get selected for the demo day as a part of this cohort as well, in case you meet the investors, in case you're meeting 5-6 investors, first go through their websites and read about them, and figure out if you want to include something specific that they would find interesting, as a couple of slides in the deck person, right? So that is one part. The second part, and what is extremely critical, is to understand that universe of investors is far larger than what we think, right? Going beyond the usual investors and digging deeper is extremely critical. What do I mean by going beyond the usual investors? All of us are aware of names that we read in the news. Okay, there's an investor called Venture Catalyst who invests in so many companies. There's an investor called 100x VC that invests in so many companies. Investors who are very good at PR, we know only them. But there are a lot of investors out there in the market who possibly don't even have a website, right? So how do we actually reach out to those investors and going beyond the names? And one such example, again, my personal example, when we raised, around 24 crores for this company called eMotorrad, that is when I faced this challenge and I learned this lesson, right? So what was this company all about? This company eMotorrad is nothing but it is an electric cycle brand. Okay, so it is basically a cycle, and that cycle has essentially a battery attached to it, right? So you can pedal it like a cycle, but if required, you can accelerate like a bike as well. And then there is a cruise mode, a lot of features to it, right? You can also use both. So while the battery is on, it's called pedal assist. So you would not have to kind of pedal as much, but still the cycle is moving, right? So it's a hybrid product per se. And we were actually looking to raise a round of capital for this particular company, right? So when we reached out, and this is the kind of range of cycles that they have, different versions, a fat tire cycle, a normal mountain cycle, and so on and so forth. So when we were looking to raise a round of capital for this company, we realized that investors came back with a feedback, the typical investors, right? Sequoias of the world, Matrix, Kalari Capital, I reached out to all. And everyone came back to us with challenges, saying that we are not interested in a manufacturing setup driven business. This is a capex heavy business. This is not an asset light business. So we are not interested in businesses like these. We like apps, platforms, and so on and so forth. Then a lot of times feedback came saying that the Indian market size looks very small. We are operating, who would buy a cycle worth 50,000 rupees or 40,000 rupees? India में कोई नहीं खरीदेगा. So Indian market, while the product is good, the market is very, very small. Then a lot of investors came back and said that we have deep understanding of the vehicle business. We do not have deep understanding of the vehicle business. We have more experience in investing in platform specific businesses, apps, and so on and so forth, right? So we do not really have a very, very detailed understanding of a business like this. We've never done it, and therefore we don't want to invest. And for good 8 months, we were not able to raise a round of capital. The company was good, doing great business, but we were not able to raise a round of capital, and we were running out of ideas that what do we do now? What is it that we should do to close a round of capital for this particular business per se? And that is when again we started reading more and more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show a few slides from the deck in terms of how we changed the story, okay, in terms of the pitch deck. So basically we went back and we had to rework around what should we actually be showing to the investor, right? And then an idea kind of struck, saying that there are a lot of investors who are today investing in electric vehicles, right? Electric vehicles. There are a lot of investors who are interested in investing in electric vehicles. So we decided, let's spin a story, okay? And the story was that, boss, all the investors, you guys are investing in electric vehicles. Between 2020 to 2023, 25 million electric cars got, were sold, right? And especially in Europe, etc., 25 million electric cars were sold. But in the same period, 130 million electric cycles were sold, right? So all you guys who have invested in electric mobility, specifically in electric cars and electric two-wheelers, what you've missed out, that the real volume, the real thing which is selling in the market where customers have adopted on a huge scale, especially in advanced countries, is actually electric cycles, right? So we are giving investors, we are proving to them that, boss, what you are actually doing is great, but there is a big potential that you are missing out on. And with this story, with this as the main focus of our story, we actually started reaching out to specific investors who were only investing either in climate impact or electric vehicles per se, right? So there are specific funds, and in your sector also you might find out that there are specific investors who are investing only in your sector, like people like EV2 Ventures, Breakthrough Energy, Jaguar Ventures, Asia, Energy Impact Partners are the ones which are specific investors who are investing in electric vehicles. And then there are investors like Green Frontier Capital who are investing in any opportunity that has a climate impact, right? So anything that is actually resulting in cutting down on emissions is what this fund actually invests in. And when we were reaching out to this fund, specifically the climate impact funds, if you see our, the tagline, we actually changed the tagline of the company or the deck to accelerating to net zero emissions. So whenever we were reaching out to any climate impact fund, we were actually using this tagline in the pitch deck, saying that, hey, you know what? We are accelerating. We are using electric bikes as a way to accelerate the net zero emission. And at the forefront of green mobility actually are electric bikes. All of you think that at the forefront of green mobility there are electric cars, but in the mobility space, e-bikes are actually picking up maximum volumes per se. So the entire tagline, even the headlines are in a way meant to actually attract green mobility or I would say, climate impact funds. And that is the story with which we went to the market. And to our surprise, we were actually lucky to raise a round of capital from after 8 months of continuous rejection that we are not interested to invest in this business with usual investors. We were actually able to raise 24 crores from this company called Green Frontier Capital, which is a US based fund, and they invested 24 crores in this startup. A small company that came out of an incubation center in Pune went ahead and raised a round of 24 crores from this fund called Green Frontier Capital. So what is the moral of the story of this segment is that going beyond the known names is very critical, and fine tuning your decks to fit into the requirements of a particular investor, or to flip the story to fit into the requirements of a particular investor, can actually at times go a long way in raising a round of capital, right? So this was the second example. So the first example, under the mango tree, we saw social impact. The second, we saw only reaching out to sector focused funds per se. The third is that lot of times financial investors or venture capital funds, you have to ignore them, right? And strategic investors can be a great bet over VC funds. Who is an investor? Anyone who's interested to invest in your business is your investor, right? It need not be a venture capital fund. It can be another company. It can be an SME. It can be a large corporate. Any entity or an individual who sees an opportunity of making money or investing in you strategically can be actually your investor per se. So go beyond the names and then go beyond VC funds. That is also something which you have to kind of figure out. Again, this is one very challenging, investment that happened last year. So here is a medical device company. Okay, this company is basically using technology to create remote ICUs that do not need Wi-Fi or that do not need a SIM card for communication. They communicate. Communication can happen through satellite. So let's say on Siachen base camp, if there is a requirement of an ICU to be set up, then this device can actually work, even though there is no possibly mobile network or nothing, right? So a doctor is able to get on a remote location, is able to actually see the parameters and figure out ways to kind of start the treatment for the patient, right? So similarly on ships. So if there's something, if there is a cardiac arrest that happens on a ship in the middle of an ocean, most of the times a helicopter, the person has to be airlifted and taken back, right? So can there be a remote ICU on the ship per se or on the flight? That was what this company is actually, that was what they were doing, right? Creating remote ICU devices. And the major application was in Army and in Navy, right? So when we reached out to investors for this particular company, we faced a lot of challenges. Firstly, investors asked, show us traction, which means that you're not revenue generating. I won't be interested to invest in your company. The thing is that medical device requires so much of upfront capital that even to reach traction level or revenue level, there is a good 6-7 crore rupees at least of funding that needs to go before the company starts making even a single rupee of revenue, right? Second is, a lot of investors shy away from B2G, right? Which means if government is your major customer, then investors don't generally like to invest in such companies, right? So we face these two challenges, that you are predominantly a B2G focused company. And second is that you don't have traction. And because of these two reasons, we will not invest in your business per se, right? So again, we had to think that what can be done? What should we do? None of the investors are backing us, but our business has great potential. We are in a very good business. We know that we can actually get a lot of business purely through defense, and therefore we should reach out to more people. So what we did in this case was, we went to the Ministry of Defense website And on that website, we got a list of all the vendors that typically the Army and Navy works with. And we were surprised that the government actually, the Ministry of Defense actually puts out a list of vendors that they work with, right? So these are names of 50, 60 medium size to large size companies that are actually supplying various components to defense forces, right? And we started figuring out that can these SMEs or large companies who are actually already supplying to defense, can they be interested to invest in a company like us, right? So one of the company which was actually providing optical sensors and electronic components to Army, they found this as a great investment opportunity. They said that, boss, I really understand the product. Some of my electronic components can actually be used in your remote ICU. I also know how to get defense orders and how to kind of get that access and what is the process and so on and so forth. And therefore, a large manufacturer who already supplied to the armed forces was the one who invested in this particular venture, right? Not related to any venture capital fund, nothing. An SME actually invested in a startup which was looking to raise a round of capital. What do I mean by this? That your investor list, investors, the list is not limited to the VC funds that we know of, right? There are so many other players, and again, geography is not the limiting factor for us, right? Imagine a company sitting in Japan wanting to, invest in a company like you. The question is, how do I find that? How do I figure that, right? And that comes through purely thinking through various themes. That okay, coming up with this theme that was, if my the application is largely in defense, should I actually reach out to existing companies that are actually providing or supplying to defense? Can they be of great strategic help to us, and can they be interested to invest in us? And believe me, lot of these mid-sized companies and large corporates are today very, very keen on investing and partnering with early stage businesses. There was a decade when they took startups very lightly and for granted. And these smaller companies became bigger, and they actually completely disrupted a sector in which these larger players were operating for a long period of time. And because of that, now everyone is very keen on understanding, oh, is there an investment opportunity in startups per se, right? So figure out if financial investors, VC funds are not the right bet, or they are not actually showing positive, I would say giving positive response. Go and reach out to strategic players, again by identifying some of the key themes and key areas, right? So this is something which is extremely critical for us to understand. And obviously, the pitch to them would be very different. The pitch to them would be around how does my opportunity strategically fit well in the larger scheme of things of what you are actually doing per se, in which a financial investor may not always be interested, right? So I'm going to take a quick pause here to see if there are any questions related to the approach that one needs to take to reach out or select the right set of investors. Any thoughts, any questions? Happy to understand, happy to kind of address those. There's a question coming around. How much did they dilute? I cannot answer that question. It was actually a deal. All I can say is for eMotorrad, we raised around 24 crores of funding, and the percentage dilution, was not disclosed. Any other question? Anyone else related to? Apurv is asking, you were telling to share pitch deck template. I will share a sample deck with you. At the end of the session, I will share a sample deck. How do you look for strategic investors, and what do you expect from them? Okay. So the way you look for strategic investors, like I said, is trying to identify key themes or fitment themes, right? So one example I already gave, that okay, this particular company already having my clientele, right? Already having my basically the target customers that I am going for, this company already has it, right? Or they are already suppliers, right? The product that I'm going to actually utilize or make requires these components. So there was a very, very perfect fit, right? So on one side, there was a fitment around technology. On the other side, there was a fitment around the customers, right? So essentially, what we actually do is we try and figure out key themes and identify if there are larger players who would be interested in expanding in these key themes per se, right? What is it that you should look for, right? What is it that you should look for from strategic? What can you expect? So typically, strategic investors give you money plus access to real network, right? Whether it is basically the vendor network, whether it is the customer network. Financial investors or venture capital investors say that we give you network and all, but the value addition is not beyond money is not that great. They can be of help on the strategic side, like things like how should you actually build a team, or how should you get your finances in order, what kind of systems and processes you need to put in place. So softer elements are added by venture capital funds per se, apart from money, and money and real hard elements are actually brought to the table by a strategic investor, right? Sheetal is asking any points for non-profits having some experimental revenue streams but still need to raise funds for major part of their work. So I don't have experience of raising money for not-for-profits. Typically, what not-for-profits do is they create a hybrid structure, which means what? That they have a for-profit private limited entity, and then they have a not-for-profit entity. So, just giving you an example of Under the Mango Tree, the for-profit entity was engaged in the business of, collecting honey and selling, bottling it and selling it. But they also had a not-for-profit, and that not-for-profit was actually teaching farmers how to do beekeeping. And for that, they raised money from, grants and, like an NGO, they raised money for that separately, right? For pre-revenue startups, like I said, for pre-revenue startups, you need to reach out to three sets of investors. One is your own friends and family members. Second is, incubators, which is very, very critical. And third is your own money, right? So your friends and family, your own money, and incubators is the right way. And in that, we don't have to do a lot of segmenting and all. There, apply to as many incubators as you want. See if they are actually focusing on your particular sector or your particular area of expertise, right? There are a couple of questions that I will take more. My product is now in the prototype stage. I want to raise funds for manufacturing and marketing. Is it possible without having final product in the market for sale? Market size is big. So basically, the product is under development, but money is required for manufacturing and for marketing. So you will be able to raise money in two phases. You won't be able to raise money for manufacturing and marketing in one go. To take the product from prototype stage to manufacturing stage, you will raise one round of funding, and then you will raise another round of funding for POCs and marketing, right? Try and figure out to reduce the quantum of funding requirement. Try and figure out if at least for the initial few years, can you do contract manufacturing, right? Is it possible by protecting your IP? Can you do contract manufacturing so that you don't have to set up your own manufacturing facility per se, right? In that case, your fundraise requirement will go down, and you will only need money for doing POC and marketing, and you will be able to easily close it from an incubator if you are looking at this particular model per se, right? So Pradeep is asking, please guide us. Okay, you are also in the segment of electric bike manufacturing. Great. We completed trial runs with 10 electric bikes. Great. We will try and connect later, and I'll guide you. Okay, cool. One more question which I'll take is where there is social impact as well as revenue opportunity. Do we highlight one or both? Both. See, Social impact investors do not invest in NGOs. Remember, they invest in for-profit social impact ventures. The whole objective is making profit, right? But while doing so, you are also at the end of the day, essentially impacting the livelihood or creating an impact, right? So the objective is profits, but you're also helping or doing good in that process. And that is something which you will have to kind of focus on, right? So that is the meaning of social impact, right? Um, cool. Now, the next question that comes to our mind is that, okay, if I have identified the list of investors, if I've gone ahead and identified which investors should I reach out to, I now need to know how do we approach investors. And this is possibly the biggest question that comes to all of our minds, right? That, okay, but tomorrow, once I wake up in the morning, I have a list of investors. How do I approach investors, right? So one little secret of the venture capital industry is that random emails, they work, but not always, right? Cold calls do not always work in this game of raising money, right? The raw material of money is trust. And imagine you getting, 25, 30 emails on a daily basis saying that, sir, invest in my company, right? You don't know whether this is basically a legitimate company, whether it is some kind of, fraud. Who are the founders? What is their background? It is not very, very easy to kind of trust an opportunity which comes through a cold email. What really works in the domain of venture capital is introductions to decision makers versus desperate random emails. What do I mean by introduction to decision makers, right? So you have to find someone who will actually introduce you to the investors. For example, as a part of this process during the demo day, there will be a guaranteed, meeting per se. The reason for that is that you are introduced to the investor through Wadhwani Foundation. There is a working relation between the set of investors and Wadhwani Foundation, right? And because of that, what is happening is there is a level, there is someone who's actually creating a layer of trust between the investor and the company per se, right? So one of the ways is what you are undergoing right now. But maybe that is not going to be enough for you to raise a round of capital. So what we have to do is we have to find people who can introduce you to other investors. The best people who can introduce you to other investors are other founders. Okay. So imagine all that we need. Whom do we need as a mentor for fundraising? We need a founder who is just one step ahead of us. If someone has recently raised their first round of funding and we are looking to raise first round, that particular founder is actually the best mentor that you can have to raise your round of capital, because that founder has already possibly spoken to 8, 10 investors. That founder has closed a round with one investor, which means that founder would have already established relations with 6, 7 investors, or at least 3, 4 investors access you can get through that one founder, right? So what I do is, I meet a lot of founders just to pick their brains around, can you help me in introductions, right? This particular process has to be built by you brick by brick. Always remember, right? And introductions will fetch you meetings with the decision makers. Random emails or a very cold call type of an approach will actually fetch you a meeting with a very junior person from the team, and it won't be a very serious meeting person, right? So always remember, try to figure out if your list has 11 investors, try to figure out, has one of the founders raised a round of capital? Today, you are a group of, right now on the call, 96 people. Imagine. Now, some of you would have, spoken to investors, would have good relations with investors, or you would have your own network of founders, right? At an incubator and so on and so forth. So programs like these, accelerator programs, incubators, other founders are actually the ones who can introduce you to the decision makers. and always go to investors. Try and reach out to investors through an introduction before you write a cold email. And cold email, I won't say that they do not work, but the probability is very, very low, right? And you would be very lucky if you close a round of funding purely through a cold email person, right? And that is what you have to figure out. And use LinkedIn a lot for this particular process, right? You would realize that, hey, in your LinkedIn, one of your close friend is actually connected, first level connected with someone, right? I will give you my personal example. I had to reach out to one of the investors who was actually an investor in PhonePe. Now, when I was just randomly looking up on the internet, I realized that the co-founder of PhonePe, one of the co-founder, Rahul Chari, is actually from my engineering college, and he was my senior. But if I drop him an email or if I drop him a message on LinkedIn, even though I'm his junior, he wouldn't possibly respond to my mail, right? He would be getting like 100 such emails. So what I did was really well. Why don't you speak to him for 10 minutes? He has some work with you. Now, when a phone went to him from our principal, he obviously had that respect for the college and respect for our principal ma'am and so on and so forth. And that is how I was able to get a meeting with him. And the first 10 minutes were around, how did you go to the college and so on and so forth. And then he introduced me to the investor. And itna sab karke, the investor declined the opportunity that we were trying to actually raise around for. But through this entire maze, I was actually able to at least get a meeting with the investor, right? So always remember this, that fundraising will require you to really, really double click on this introduction part, right? And then the last option is obviously there with us, which is cold emails, right? Now, how do you find the email addresses of people? Okay, I found the right person on LinkedIn, but I don't know his email address or her email address. So how do I reach out to them? So there is a tool available, which is a LinkedIn plugin, okay, a Google Chrome extension called Lusha. And there is also a tool available called Get Email. Okay, what it does is these tools, once you actually download these, they are actually Chrome extensions. So the moment you open the profile of any person on LinkedIn, you will get a button saying that do you want his or her email address? And once you click on that, you will get that person's email address, right? And you can send an email to that person. So this is an extension tool which is available. Register on these through your personal email address and not through your company email address. Because through your personal email address, you get credits around 100 emails you can actually, kind of download, right? And for professional email addresses, you get some 10 or 15 credits, and then it asks you to pay money, right? So there are various tools available with which, basically using which you get, 85% of the times the emails are accurate, and 10 to 15% of the times they bounce. But at the end of the day, if nothing is available, then I use some of these tools to get the right email address of the person that I'm trying to reach out to, right? And this is what is the last resort that we have when it comes to raising money per se. Always also remember, I am while I go and speak at a lot of events, I am not a very big fan of attending events to raise a round of capital. Okay. And take me again with a big stone of salt, not just a pinch of salt. This is my personal opinion. Whenever you have an event coming up that, hey, pitch to hundreds of investors, pitch to 50 investors, buy a ticket, meet investors, all these events, you will have 1,000 founders chasing those 50, 100 investors. And those 50 investors are there not to build pipeline, but only to brand themselves and market themselves. That's it, right? It's more of a branding exercise for them rather than an exercise for building a pipeline of startups that they can invest in, right? So real investors are sitting in their offices, figuring out how to deal with startups. Real founders are sitting in their offices, cracking deals. The janta in between is attending all these events per se, right? So, before you attend and go there, just to learn, just to, network randomly, but don't go there with an intention of raising a round of capital, right? I would never go to an event to raise a round of funding. It doesn't work that, right? So that is one more point which you have to understand. And then the final thing is seek help of the experts, like one of you were mentioning, right? Instead of doing all of this myself, why don't I actually go and say that seek help from experts, right? Who have actually been there, done that, right? Typically, what they are termed as investment bankers, right? So how do I select the right investment banker? How do I select the right expert? You know, how do I actually choose? Believe me, it is such a low entry barrier business that everyone today you will find saying that, oh, I help startups in raising a round of funding, right? I help companies in raising a round of capital. Because you don't need anything to do that. All you need is a laptop and a seat in a co-working place to kind of start a business of fundraising for startups, right? What is happening is try and understand one question that you have to ask them is how many deals have you closed recently? Okay. Not how many companies are you helping right now in raising a round of capital. It doesn't matter. This particular expert would have worked with 100 companies and would have not closed the round of capital for any of those 100, right? What is important in fundraising is deal closures. So, okay, I will work with you, but can you tell me the deals that you have done in the recent past? Second is, can you actually give me the contact details of the founders for whom you have raised the round of capital? Right? Very, very important to do reference. Okay. Talk to the founders for whom this person has or this company has raised a round of capital. If they come back and tell you, oh, I raised money for 5 companies, but because of confidentiality, I'm not able to share their details. Again, leave it, right? The right investment banker would actually tell you that, okay, these are the 4 deals that I've done. Here are the references, and would not ask any upfront money from you for working on fundraising. The entire payment structure will be success based. What do we mean by that? I am not going to take a single rupee of money from you upfront. I will build the deck, I will build your financial model, I will do everything, but I will not charge you. If you raise a round of capital, then a certain percentage, the range is somewhere between 3 to 5%. 3 to 5% of the fundraise amount is what I will actually take from you. Right? Why is it that you should work with people who are only looking at making success fees? The reason is because they are also invested in your success, right? So if I strongly believe that I will be able to raise a round of capital for you, only then I will work with you on a success basis. But a lot of times the business model is I will charge you 1.5 lakh rupees upfront, and I'll tell you, sir, I will make business plan financial model in this 1.5 lakh rupee. I'll also raise. My real business model is to find 50 such companies where I can charge 1.5, 2 lakh rupees. Fundraising hua nahi hua, I'm still not losing out on that, right? So 3 things again to summarize. People, ask them how many deals have you closed recently. Take references and talk to these founders. And third is work with people only who are actually working with you on success based. Today, I am so, I feel so bad. People are asking upfront, forget about success fees. They are asking upfront equity stake in the company. Like, मुझे पहले 2% आप आपके business में stake दे दो, and then I will work with you as a, fundraising expert, and I'll raise a round of capital. You should actually be really, really keeping yourself away from all such transactions per se, where someone is asking, hey, give me 2%, this is very standard, and so on and so forth, right? So this is what you should use as parameters when you seek help of experts, right? So in a way, how do we reach out to investors? First is try and understand that introductions matter. Second, work with, accelerator program. Example, this will fetch you meetings. Incubators might fetch you meetings. Founders, getting another founder as a mentor. Believe me, the best founder, the best mentor that you can get is no one but another founder. Always remember that, right? फाइनेंस एक्सपर्ट, ये एक्सपर्ट, वो एक्सपर्ट, सब ठीक है. एक फाउंडर, the way one founder can mentor you, even in fundraise, right? No one else can mentor you that way, right? So seek help from the founders. Ultimately, cold calling is available. Use certain tools to get the right email, so at least the hit ratio is good. And finally, if you are appointing someone to raise a round of capital, always ask three things, and that is what is critical. I'm going to take a quick pause here. Satya has raised his hand for a question. Please go ahead and ask your question
Yeah.
per se.
Yeah. Vikrant, I'll not be taking long. I mean, I think that will be helpful for the others, other startups also. So, like long back, like 3 to 4 months back, there's a Razorpay event happening, and I met a angel investor. So he asked me, we do chocolates on the brand Lovely Chocolates. We do customized chocolates. I mean, so he asked me to send a chocolate. I thought it's for payment. But after delivering the chocolate, when I asked the payment, he said like, I thought as a gift, and he just, closed the conversation. And from there, there's no mutual contact. I mean, so as you just, without any powder, you touching every topic. I mean, and also, if you don't mind, for the fellow startups, when we deliver, when we have a direct product, and there are like mentors and investors and angel investors, all those, I mean, and people asking us, some of people will ask us, we want to see your kitchen and how see the trade secret, or the full business model. So what is the parameter, like, how to
Sure.
avoid them?
Sure. So
So
see,
that,
the
yeah.
first parameter is ki boss, who is this investor, right? Very, very critical for us to understand. A lot of times, what happens is, there are people who are wanting to understand details, maybe competitors, you never know, posing as investors and so on and so forth, right? So the very first thing is that my parameter is always doing lot of reference checks, okay? Even before kind of, and it may sound rude to the investor, but that is okay. We have to kind of safeguard ourselves first, right? So a random person who has never invested in a startup ecosystem, I would ask questions like, okay, so if you're looking at investments, have you made any angel investments before, or is this your first investment? Which are a few of the investments that you've actually made? You kind of gauge the kind of the person that uh, he is, right? A lot of times I do, it might not sound right, but especially when it comes to people who are calling themselves investors and all, I always try and figure out which cars are they driving. You know, I just ask a question that where do you stay? Okay, and I'm not saying that investors can't come from, let's say, a place called Kalyan, which is on the outskirts of Mumbai. I'm not saying that, but some of these questions kind of help you in figuring out that boss ये actually investor है या time pass कर, right? So lot of these things you have to actually keep your eyes and ears open to lot of these other things to make to get that gut saying that boss, even though this person is an investor, I don't want to have a conversation with him, right? And because of these, it just doesn't feel right. Okay. So, there's a person who comes to me and says that, I want to invest 1 crore. I asked him that, hey, have you made any angel investment so far? No, this is the first time that I'm going to make. What do you do? So some of the questions can help you in identifying whether the person is right or wrong. Always also remember, good investors and good investors, unless the product is high ticket value, like for example electric cycles, what we did was we did test runs for investors. We never gifted cycles to investors saying that, hey, you know what, you kind of we are giving it for free, right? But we organized for a test drive that can I send a cycle to your office and possibly you can do a test. In your case, what I think is the right set of investors would come and say that I will go to the website and I'll actually buy it myself, or I will actually, how much does it cost, right? I will ask that question, even though I'm wanting to invest, right? So some of these signals you have to capture and make your own assumptions and thought process around investors, and then take a call whether to move ahead or not with these guys, right? And that is what typically I actually always do. it can be biased. It can be like, for example, which car the person is driving can be a bias. But boss, the reality is someone is coming and telling me that I'm going to actually invest, 2 crore rupees in your business, and he's actually, going back home in a car which is not so fancy. I would question, right? He might be a very humble person, not believing in that, and still doing it, but it's not the right signal. That is not 90% of the times how it works, right? So these are some of the things that I typically look for, I would say, before engaging with investors, right?
Because I'll also ask the question again. Back to I'm Rajat here again.
Sure.
I think 11 out of 10 people I've met, 11 out of 10 always ask in an investment banking point of view for upfront fees.
Yeah.
It's we just are not able to find a single guy. I'm talking about 5 years of contacting maybe 40, 50
Yeah.
investment bankers. सब
Yeah.
50,000 लाख 3 लाख 4 लाख upfront, otherwise काम
Yeah.
नहीं करेंगे. So
See,
where do you
that is,
find these guys?
that is what, how much money are you looking to raise?
Oh, around about 5 crores, up to 7 crores. Yeah.
Not. See, that is the problem with this particular ticket size. Okay, what happens is, purely on success. Let's say even if I charge 3% to you, okay, for the 6-7 months of effort, I'm going to make 15 lakh rupees from your fundraise, and that too if it happens, right? No one can guarantee whether it will happen or not, right? Now, because of that, lot of these, shady investment banks have kind of come up, which their main model is कि sir हम लोग आपको पैसा रेस करके देंगे 3 लाख रुपया दे दो, we will do everything, right? The challenge is, I would put it that all of them were not the right ones for you, right? The whole idea is try and convince someone saying that how you will be able to raise around. In fact, they should be doing that, right? They should be coming and saying that how you will be able to raise a round of capital versus you telling them, right? And therefore, there is a need. Therefore, there is a need in the first couple of rounds where, as a founder only, 90% of the times, as a founder only, you will have to raise a round of capital, right? The game really changes $3-4 million onwards. That is when you have seen the progress of the company. You are very confident. People are willing on a 50 crore raise. There is a crore rupees to be made by the person, by the firm who is actually creating. Doing the deal, right? And it is more complex, more complicated. So therefore, I would say give it a shot to raise a round of capital on your own first, right? See where it goes. If there is some dedicated time that is assigned, maybe an hour every day on fundraising, I think still you will be able to raise a round of capital without, having the need for another investment bank, right? And I have also not come across anyone that I can actually tell you that, hey, you know what, work with this particular company per se. They're really good. That is the challenge, right?
Understood. Yeah, but then we can always increase the size of ticket.
2% from your investment if it is raised. Can we believe? Yeah, see, 2% of the fundraise amount, it is actually good. That is okay. If someone is telling you that, if I'm raising 5 crore rupees for you, I will take 2% of that 5 crores, right? 2% of 5 crores would 5 twos are 10 would mean around 1 lakh rupees, right? So if you're raising
10 lakh,
5
10 lakh.
crores, 10 lakh rupees. If you're raising 5 crores and you're giving 10 lakh rupees on success, then that is okay. You should still go ahead and do this transaction, right? And initially they don't do. But ask them this question: that what deals have they done? Have they worked on any deal closures recently? Which companies? It is better.
Can also guide us in another. Can also guide us. How do you find these investment banks? I mean, you told us how to find VCs and how to find angel investors. All that you have been kind enough to explain to us. But in this whole very important sector of investment bankers, where do you find the right guys? Do you find them on LinkedIn or where?
Yeah. So see, the thing is that again there, network, LinkedIn, news runs also. A lot of times when you actually raise a round of capital, the name of the investment banker is also there in the news article. So a bunch of these ideas. Let me do something. See, I don't want to make this as a sales call either, for any of the companies that I know, because that's not the objective, right? But over when we meet one-on-one at some point in time, I will possibly come up with a few names which you can reach out to and try out, right?
Okay.
That can be done. So some of the incubators take 2% or ask for 2-3% is the question, right? So see, the incubator model is very, very different. The incubators typically give you 4 Ps, okay? Place, they give you place to operate, they give you proficiency, a lot of training programs, etc. They give you people, service providers, mentors, and they give you pesa, which is capital, right? Through their seed funds. So, and these services are free for a period of 1 to 2 years. So, in a way, when incubator asks for 1 to 2%, I would still say it is fair because it is basically you are getting a lot of hard and soft infrastructure along with it for a period of 1 to 2 years, right? So if you are able to get a office space without any cost, if you are able to get good quality mentors, if there are good training programs arranged, if there is access to seed fund of the incubator that you are getting, then I think that 1 or 2% with a good incubator shouldn't be a problem, and that is okay, right? So take a call on what are you getting when you are actually giving this free equity or sweat equity to people per se, right? So that is that is what it is, right? So to sum up the entire, I would say our discussion of 2 days, one is as a part of the deck, there are certain things that you should include. There are certain things you shouldn't include. We've gone through what all can be included. How do we actually structure these 10-15 minute pitches? How do we kind of select investors basis criteria? And how do we reach out to investors, right? So these are the 4 things. Obviously, fundraise is a very, very, I would say, detailed topic, and I cannot, cover everything in a couple of hours. But there is something which, these are the things that I wanted to cover, right? There is one question which I, am taking is there are a lot many scams happening around startup funding. I came across some posing as incubators asking for upfront money. So be aware of all of these scams, etc. That people posing as investors. People, one of the scam that I came across is an investor from abroad issued a term sheet saying that we are very interested. Here is a term sheet. We want to invest so much money, but there is a processing charge of 50,000. And why don't you wire that first, right? And so in equity fundraise, there is nothing called as a processing charge, etc. So, therefore, do not operate in fundraise, do not operate outside of the known network is what I would suggest, right? And that is what it is. And see, look at the message that Alka has mentioned, has put to everyone. I have faced a scam with an Indian investor who took 5 lakhs as EMD and then disappeared, right? This is big, and therefore be very, very careful. See, I have written an article. There is one article published on Your Story. I've written this article called 13 Reasons Why You Should Not Raise Money. Okay. Before you start your fundraising journey, read that article on Your Story of why you should or what you should consider before raising a round of capital, right? That is something which is very, very critical. We are in a today we've been made to believe that if you are running a business and if you have not raised a round of capital, then you are actually an unsuccessful founder. Okay, that is not true. The benchmark of success in business is not capital raise, right? It doesn't matter whether we have grown our business by raising a round or by not raising a round at all, right? Imagine this, right? If I raise 50 lakh rupees of loan from bank, will I kind of celebrate, put it on PR, put it everywhere that, hey, you know what, I raised 50 lakh rupees from SBI? Did people actually put out press release? No. Equity is exactly like that. Instead of getting money from bank, in fact, it is worse than that. Because we are not getting money from bank, we have to dilute our equity and go to the investors. So what needs to be celebrated is not raising a round of capital, right? Although I come from the same segment or sector, I would still go and say that don't make fundraise as the end story for your business, right? Investor se paise raise karna does not mean is not the definition of success per se. So that brings me to the end of my talk. Like I had discussed last time, we have a volunteer who wants to kind of quickly in 5-7 minutes pitch their business, and it's very good that I think Alka was the one who actually had volunteered yesterday, day before she mentioned. So can we do that? Can we actually hear her story and her pitch quickly, and possibly we can type in some feedback for her if and we can help her out by that way. So Alka, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here, and one
Perfect.
is off. Yeah, I'm here, and
Great.
I'm happy.
Just before that, Tanya has raised her hand. Do you want to say something? There's a question.
Yeah, hi Vikrant.
Hi.
So I just have a question about how, like, something that needs to be included in the pitch. So you mentioned about, all the sales and the numbers and everything that we need to include. What do we do if there has been a dip in sales in one of the years? Like, say,
Yeah.
for us, especially during COVID, we had a slight dip in the sales. How do we portray that which doesn't reflect badly on us, and how do we, work around that?
Sure. So see, a lot of times it's very common that there's a dip in the sale because of certain reasons, right? What I typically would suggest is, if you are showing it on a graph, let's say your sales, okay, put a note that this was, the business got impacted during COVID because of these reasons, right? What is important is it won't reflect that, right? If there is a reason because of which that happened, and that has been corrected or that phase has gone, then it will have no impact on the fundraise first, right? And this was a very common thing that happened to all the businesses during COVID, that there was a dip. So, and investors really understood the fact that there was a dip because of these reasons. Or a lot of times startups upfront come and say that, you know what, I launched the product in the market and I got very bad feedback about the product, and because of that, I pulled out the product, right? And there was this 2-3 months wherein I was rebuilding the product because of the market feedback. And these 3 months, you will see a dip in the sale is because I had taken the product out because the product was not working. And then I relaunched it. And now you can again see the spike, right? So these things happen every time in business, right? So communicate as is and put out the reasons why did that particular thing happen. And if you do that, then it will not have a major impact on the overall fundraise, story per se. But if you leave it in the due diligence, questions will come that, hey, you know what, the business was not doing well, and at that point in time, we have to kind of justify first.
Okay, all right, thank you. And so, if there are whatever legitimate reasons that we should include, should that be explained in the first 10 minutes, or should that be left
Not
to the
really.
appendix?
Not really. Just give a summary. Kind of, you can. The way I do is, all the important points or FAQs, I create a slide on that and put it in the appendix, right? So if there is a question in that 10 minutes, if there is a question that comes that, oh, you know what, but the sales did, go to that slide, communicate the reasons. That is how you can do it.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Cool. Sounds good. Great. Kedar, can we give access, screen sharing access to Alka?
Sure. Yeah. Alka, can you try?
Yeah. You'll have to tell me if my screen's visible.
Yes, it's
Please.
visible. There's no audio.
Yes.
Okay, no, so the audio is going to be me.
Okay, cool.
Did you know that most mid-size online businesses, when they're trying to sell online, lose about 30% of their transactions, either due to failure at the payment gateway or due to the inability of the payment gateway to offer the particular mode of payment, which the end consumer wants. This is one of the problems that Paytm Payments is trying to solve. My name is Alka, and I'm the founder and CEO of Paytm Payments. My co-founder is Funny. Now, I come with an experience of about 21 years in the payment industry. I worked with one of India's largest private sector banks, where I managed payments, across various departments. And across all sectors. So at the end of it, when I left the bank, I was managing the strategic accounts pan India, which is like the Reliance and erstwhile Future Group, Lifestyle Group, etc. Funny was part of my team. I met him while we were working together in HDFC Bank. And he comes with an experience of 15 years in tech and payments. Funny manages the tech side of stuff at Pay8. And we've also collected a team of people who have experience in merchant acquiring or in managing the payment acceptance for businesses. So collectively, we boast of collective experience of 80 years. Pay8's USP is that we are solving the transaction failure problem for the mid-sized online businesses, which is a need of the hour. We dynamically and seamlessly route transactions to multiple payment gateways and increase the business's sale by 30%. We can make merchant go live in 5 working days, where today most of the major players have an embargo and are not able to let merchants go live. So basically, if I have to say it, we are helping mid-sized online businesses sell like an Amazon, right? We did talk to a lot of merchants. We asked them what are their problems that they are facing when they are trying to sell online. One was that no payment gateway provides all the payment modes. There is no single platform available for all the payment gateways to be plugged in, which a mid-sized business can use. Routing and reconciliation becomes an issue if they decide to go to multiple payment gateways. And if they say, no, I will go with India's largest payment gateway, then when that payment gateway is down, the business loses its credibility because the website is deemed as being down. Since we are working with 18 aggregators, we are also able to offer affordability like the EMI and buy now, pay later to these businesses, which today only the biggies like a Amazon or a Flipkart or a Swiggy are able to. So what does Pay8 do? We unify all the payment gateways. Here are some of the payment gateways that we work with. All of these are integrated onto a single platform of Pay8. We do a success-based routing depending on which payment gateway is the most successful. And that's how we're able to offer 30% higher transaction success. Each business gets their individual MID. And since we're working with so many of the payment gateways and aggregators, we're able to offer all the businesses affordability as well. As far as our scale of operations, well, we started in 2021. We've been integrations seem to be a continuous process for us, as there are aggregators who keep getting in and out of the RBI list. So we started with 5 integrations. As of now, we have 18. Last year, we broke even. We earned a revenue of 3.19 crores and 250 merchants. As on today, we have 450 merchants, 430 merchants actually. This year, we have stopped one of the product lines, and hence the volumes that we have done on our payment platform is a little low. We are supported by AIC Elite V-Hub. We're part of T-Hub's Cohort 6, Stanford Seed Spark, and I've recently finished a program with Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women Entrepreneur Program at IIM Bangalore. Out of the awards that we have won, the one that's closest to my heart is the Andhra Pradesh Government FinTech Challenge Winner Award, which was organized by APIS along with Andhra Pradesh government, where we got a cash prize and a chance to work with the government of Andhra Pradesh. Why FinTech? Why should anyone invest? 46% of the global transactions are from India, which is, in my mind, very sizable opportunity for any investor in the FinTech industry. The FinTech market is currently at 50 billion and is slated to grow 3x to $150 billion by 2025. Now, these are not numbers that I'm quoting off the top of my hat. These are numbers from, studies and reports by PwC, EY, Statista, etc. The digital payments in India are currently 20%, and they are expected to rise to 68% in the rural sectors, which is tiers 2 to 5 cities. And while online payments, UPI leads with 52%, we've all read the news. But as long as there are salaried employees in India, credit cards, debit cards, net banking wallets will also continue to be an important integral part of the payments ecosystem. The digitization opportunity that is available, currently only 25% of the Indian medium businesses sell online. That gives us an opportunity of about 75%. And if we look at the opportunity, tier-wise, then we can see that the current digitization penetration is extremely low at 10% in tiers 2 to 5 cities. And while I would love to have the balance 90%, but I'm being a little more realistic and saying that this is the kind of an opportunity that we would like to track and tap into in the next 24 months. We also found through the customer interviews and surveys that we did that there are some of these necessity segments which have a slightly higher ticket size, and therefore these merchants need to be able to offer EMI and buy now pay later, which is basically healthcare, education, grocery. While jewelry is a high ticket as well, but jewelry does not qualify for EMI, so that is not something that we would be offering at all. We are a PCI DSS certified company with elastic load balancing. And our biggest moat is that an aggregator like a PayU or a Razorpay will never route transactions to their competition, while we don't have any other person, any of the aggregators as a competition. Also, since I'm from the payment industry, we are treated as a growth partner by the aggregators, and we are not treated as competition by any of them. How do we make money? Well, we collect a one-time integration fees from our merchants. We collect the transaction fees from the payment gateways, right? And there is a AMC or an annual maintenance fees from the second year onwards. With Pay8, your business can go online in a standard time of 4 hours. As long as the website developer has time on his hands, integrations are extremely smooth and seamless because we've made ready-made kits available for most of the languages, tech languages. We started a targeting marketing campaign, and this is on social media primarily. Also, a little bit of it on online print media, where we are targeting merchants who fit our customer persona. We started email marketing as well. And we have a team that manages all the leads that flow in from marketing automation. Here's just a few reviews of what our customers say. We currently trying to raise 6.5 crores, all of it in equity. And we have carved out a ESOP pool for our employees, which is already started off. We have an angel investor. Our first round of investment was in November 21. Where are we going to use the 6.5 crore rupees that you give us? It's going to be used primarily for scale up. So there is a huge cost of marketing expenses, which comes to about 25-26%. There is a team that needs to be hired. There is definitely some amount of design and development fees because we will need to improve on the product and the basic office expenses. In the last 2 years, our expenses were 2.6 crores, and we are estimating or projecting expense of about 5.1 crores in the next 2 years. For those of you who are wondering, okay, what is the competition Pay8 has? Well, we are designed or fashioned more like an Adyen, who's founded in 2006. They raised their Series C in 2015, and currently they are one of the most EBITDA positive companies in Europe. Closer home is JustPay, who we feel is like our elder brother. They've started in 2012. They just turned EBITDA positive last financial year, from what I know. The major difference between JustPay and us is that JustPay works with only the large enterprise accounts and only in Tier 1 cities, whereas we work with mid-sized businesses in Tiers 2 to 5. Another difference between JustPay and Payaid is that JustPay will ask you to go to the bank, get your own MID and come, and then they will plug it in. Whereas we take care of the entire end-to-end process because we understand that mid-sized businesses do not have time to spare for these things. So we collect the KYC, we get the identifications from the various banks and aggregators and plug it in, and the merchant's ready to go live. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, really nice. Thank you so much for this, Alka, and really interesting, I would say interesting business. You sit on top of all the aggregators and increase the success of payments, and really good to see the kind of traction that you've received already, right? It's not that. I just have one question. Which was the product that you pulled out, so because there is a significant decline in the GMV.
Yes, so we were doing a lot of gaming merchants as well.
Okay.
So that entire segment we pulled out.
Understood.
There's a lot of regulatory issues around it.
Sure. So
government doesn't.
Got it. So in the interest of time, quick feedback for everyone given this pitch. I think the delivery was extremely good. There are just 2 points that I would do. There are a few slides in the beginning that look thoda, khali, right? In terms of there are 4 sentences and there is a box. And then there is one slide where you have lot of text, which is there somewhere in the mid where you're talking about the market, after the market, right? And then there was the digitization opportunity slide, which was very, I would say very obvious. You could have avoided that to cut down on the time person, right? And finally, the titles. Okay, so basically, instead of saying the team, I would say, over 40 years of combined experience, team with over 40 years of combined experience. Then instead of saying market opportunity, whatever you're doing, right? Aggregating payment gateways, a 30 billion opportunity in India. Then I go to the next slide. So what I typically do is the headings, you can make them as sentences that you want to really, communicate hard, right? So that is what you can do and how you can kind of structure the story per se, right? So the headings kind of keep continuing. A team over 40 years of combined experience, building a product that is never seen before in India. Opportunity size of catering to an opportunity size of over 30 billion. Very little competition currently in the market, thereby giving an ability. Then if the heading is too much, then continue that at the bottom, thereby giving an opportunity to become a market leader, right? So the entire pitch is like a story, right? That is what I would actually do, right? Also, in a lot of your businesses like this, you can actually upfront build a case. Okay, like imagine a small, a seller who's currently selling through this particular city, does a business of 5 lakh rupees a month, but loses out on another 6 lakhs purely because of, if you put some cases, you communicate that in terms of cases, it becomes more effective, right? So typical, given that you have so much business, you can pull out a customer case, which is your the persona, which kind of represents your person, and create the pitch through that case, that this person does this much business and loses out on so much of money because of payment gateways not success rate, a low success rate at transactions.
Right.
Imagine there are 100,000 such or 1 million people or 100 million such small businesses in India facing the same challenge, right? So the same thing which you've mentioned, I'm just communicating it through a live case first. The impact becomes very high. So these are some of the pointers. And the reason why we did this was because it is applicable for everyone. And thank you so much, Alka, for actually agreeing to this. And what we do is, if you can unmute, all of us can unmute our mics and kind of clap for her. We can really recreate the entire thing for her.
Great show, Alka.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, everyone.
So that's it from my side for today. Kedar, thanks a lot for getting this organized and inviting me. And I hope to see you all at some point.
Yes, absolutely, Vikrant. I think the pleasure is all ours. I think I think my feeling is it's kind of come to an end. It was like a 2 days long awaited.
How do we reach out to Vikrant?
I'm going to just see what you can do is the best way is to reach out to Kedar and to me. I'm leaving my email address. I am extremely bad at replying. So kindly be little bit patient with me, or nudge someone to kind of push to get a meeting. But I will definitely try and connect with all of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Thanks a lot, Vikrant. Before we close, just want to quickly rephrase the morning discussion before we started. These are 2 dates that we're looking at. One is we are looking at final mock pitches, and of course, again, thanks to Vikrant, who is helping us in arranging some of these final mock pitches. Let's see if we are lucky, we'll have interacting again with Vikrant. And 15th of November is a final date to submit your final pitch deck. I hope you all will have a fantastic Diwali. So wish you all a very happy Diwali. And thanks a lot for your time.
Hello.
Thanks again, Vikrant, for your time here.
हाँ बताइए.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Kedar.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Kedar, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there a particular deck format that you want us to present it in, or can we use our own format?
You can use your format, not an issue at all. As long as we are covering all the 10 points that Vikrant mentioned in his deck, we are good. So.
Okay, great.
Alka, hi, this is Narendra. If you have a minute, can I just ask you one question, on your... see, basically, we are using a payment gateway of Paytm, right?
Okay.
And in fact, yes, of course, it's true that payment, gateway of Paytm doesn't really offer, all the options. But however, I think the pain point is not just that, is it about downtime or, the number of things? It's also about commercials. So, because, if you're able to, let's assume, commit to a certain amount of, a number, etc. So all I'm asking is, when you're doing a selling story to, these SMBs, are you also able to show a value of, why you could, you should come along with us? Because A, downtime, B, the thing is the range. And the third is, because we are an aggregator, we are able to, get you slightly better commercials.
Yes.
Or, is that component true? Because, if that could become a deal clincher.
So, Narendra, yes, we do offer better rates than the market. While there are people like PhonePe who say 0 transaction charges for the next 3 months. Okay. Or there is, some of the companies, I don't want to name them because they are my partners as well. Some of them say that, okay, you give us your documents, we will give you a rate of 1.2%. But they still have the RBI embargo. They still don't have approval to onboard merchants, right? So we do come across cases, but in my humble opinion, I have always sold better on features and benefits rather than pricing alone, because pricing can get into a dirty war.
See, fair point. I'll tell you why. Because see, the thing is, the moment you reach out to a small size organization. So I'll give you a small example. The other day, I got a call from this company by the name of AdLogs. Okay. And since we are a food delivery company, we obviously, partner with certain delivery partner, like a Dunzo or a Shadowfax or a Porter, etc. And each of these people, have their own API. So one can mathematically or logically actually have multiple API integrations as well, right? So, for example, we could have with PayU as well as, Paytm. Now, when Adlocks, came in, they came in, with the same concept that, listen, we are an aggregator of all the, whatever. So 99% of the time, we will ensure you get a rider, whether it is from a Porter or a Shadowfax or a Zomato or a Swiggy. We said, fantastic, this is a great model. The only, end side to it, where we could not really, take off with them is that the commercials which are there, the commercials, which they basically, give are higher than the commercials if you go directly with somebody. Then I think, then that model doesn't really, take off. So that was, I was just asking a question. I'm not questioning your business model.
So Narendra, can I ask you, what does Paytm charge you currently for your payment gateway charges?
I think they charge us 1.7% on an average.
No, forget an average. What do they charge you for credit cards?
I think credit card, is also around 1.7. Debit card is, free till about, 2,000 rupees. Wallets is, I can, I can share it with you, but the commercials of, Paytm. But I'm saying that the only reason that we could not go with the aggregator of a delivery supplier, even though they had the best story to sell, that 99% of your orders will be fulfilled, whether Mohan picks it up or Sohan, we will ensure. But the moment, they shared the commercials, what we figured out is that if we go directly with a Dunzo or a Shadowfax or a whatever, we are better off in terms of commercial. And, startups especially, every penny, makes a difference.
I agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. So, Narendra, I think instead of, holding back everybody, if you can share your mobile number, I'd like to take this discussion offline, and I would definitely like to have you as one of my customers.
Absolutely, Alka. I'll just, send my number in the screen. But great presentation. In fact, I was the other one who wanted to really present, but I think you got the opportunity.
I'm sorry.
No. All the best. I really learned. Thanks so much, Alka.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Great. All right. So once again, thanks a lot, and Alka, a wonderful presentation. So I hope it was hell of a performance, I would say. But good. The good thing is your presentation is ready. I think you can go ahead and submit it as soon as possible.
And the good thing is that I also got feedback on what I need to change before I submit.
Yes, absolutely. So the quick next steps are, once you upload your M3, we will start with the investment pitches, right? The final investment pitches, and let's see if we can get Vikrant himself to be a jury for some of these pitches. Before that, we look forward to your final documents, and once again, very happy Diwali to all of you. Have a good holidays. Bye. Thank you.
Diwali, everyone.
Thank you. Happy Diwali, everybody.
Guys, when will be the pitch deck template? Like, has Vikrant sir informed anything about that?
No. So nothing. No date is given as such, but you can. I hope you have noted most of his points that he has shared with us. So you can go ahead and prepare your pitch deck, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Alka, just I'll take only 1 second, Alka. I'm Satya speaking from Lovely Choco 7. So we had franchise. Yeah, it will not take long. I mean, very short one. So do you provide route also, like, where I can settle? I have franchise owners, like where the payment happen online and I have to settle them. So right now I'm doing offline. So do you have any process where I can settle online, like route?
Yes. So if you are getting all the money in your account and you want to do the payouts,
yes,
have a payout option where you have to upload the Excel file. Load. We'll give you a virtual account. You load the virtual account, upload the Excel file, and the money will get paid to the franchisees.
Okay, it's not it's automation process. I mean, not manual.
No, I just need an Excel file and money. That's all I need.
Okay, money also I have to manually enter how much I have to settle.
Money you have to. We'll give you a virtual account. You will have to transfer money to that virtual account. That you can do through net banking.
Okay.
Excel file you can upload. We'll give you access to the dashboard where you can upload the Excel file yourself.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
suppose, since it's to do with money, we will not get involved in it.
Okay.
Supposing you have 2 franchisees that you want to pay to today,
Yeah.
and tomorrow there are 10 franchisees that you want to pay, and then day
Yeah.
after tomorrow there's again only 3 franchisees that you want to pay. So it would probably not be a great idea for us to handle uploading of the file.
Yeah. Got it. Yep. Got it. So
So
yeah.
what I can do is I can just leave my number here.
Yes. Or else, I think we are on the same group. I mean, so I can pull from WhatsApp. I mean, if you okay.
Because,
Yeah,
I
that'll
don't.
be good. You can pass
on
it
the-
on
Yeah.
in the
Thanks,
WhatsApp.
Kiran. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, sir. I got the number. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Kiran. I have no idea. I did not do this. I'm not responsible
Good. No, I think
for questions. But you know,
look at the byproducts. You already got 2-3 potential
Yeah.
customers
Obviously.
with this.
Yeah.
the nicest cohorts that I'm a part of, because I can already see people who can be my customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thanks a lot, guys. Don't want to hold you back for long. I have another meeting at 5. So just gonna finish this. Okay. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you once again. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Kedar.
Yeah.
Thank you.